Welcome back to the channel, Radar for Wrestling. Got my main man Mex here from WrestleManiac UK. How's it going, Mex?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Been an interesting week of wrestling. Obviously, we saw the big return last night at NXT. I've been on cloud nine since. Looking forward to NXT next week already. But we got Hell in a Cell this weekend first, so I'm gonna chat about that today.
Not as exciting as what happened on NXT for some reason or another, right? That just seems to be the way it is. But yeah, we are covering Hell in a Cell, which is this Sunday on the glorious Peacock streaming service. If you're in the US, Mex luckily still has WWE Network in the UK. Oh. So yeah, it's a pay-per-view currently right now advertised 5 matches on the card, which I think they're going to add a 6th, but just waiting for this Friday to do it because I think it has to do with, a couple of superstars on SmackDown. And we'll talk about that match because I'm predicting that match will take place. I thought I was going to get the Hell in the Cell actual cell, but it won't if it does take place. We already know what Hell in the Cell matches are going to be this year. No female Hell in the Cell matches. The 2 men have the 2 men's titles have those Hell in the Cells attached to their matches. All right, so Max, leading up to this pay-per-view, Hell in the Cell. All right, let me get to this question first. How do you feel about Hell in the Cell being a pay-per-view?
Yeah, I don't like it. It's funny enough you say that. Some other guys from London that I do videos with, shout out to Rest Things, they just put out a video where I was talking about 5 things I hate in wrestling. And I think one of the first things I said is, match types being pay-per-views.
Yes.
Hell in a Cell, which I think we've spoken about before, is what, back in the day, like we have killed each other in 2 out of 3 falls matches, singles matches, ladder match, everything. And Hell in a Cell is where all should end and the feud ends. And now, Rey Mysterio is entering Hell in a Cell just because Roman beat up his son. Drew Bobby kind of, yes, needs to be Hell in a Cell at this point, but I feel like the build towards it hasn't been scrappy enough to say, okay, just put these guys in a cell. And then funny enough, Charlotte and Rhea, which, probably has been scrappy right up until, Hell in a Cell, isn't in the Hell in a Cell match. It probably should be in a cell. But yeah, generally they just need to move away from these, and the cell's not even as ominous and scary as it used to be. Like, it's
because it's red, right? I think that's why.
You know what? I didn't even mind it being red. I think it's okay.
Yeah.
But like, they when you see the Hell in a Cell adverts in the last couple of days, it's all like our scary structure, this, that, and the other. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, Mankind got thrown off this thing. Mankind went through this thing. You should see this thing tear apart people's skin. And right now, it's nowhere near that. Like, so yeah, it's a real disappointment.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. And the fact that, this does not need to be a pay-per-view surrounded around this match. Now, it's the same concept as the cage, right? So like the cage is supposed to be like the final part of the feud. This is what ends the feud. This was the issue with Blood and Guts and AEW. That was a feud ender. Yeah. And Stadium Stampede should have been the one that took place before, and then Blood and Guts should have been the one that ended it. So Hell in the Cell itself, by de facto, it's a feud ender. You can't get any bigger than Hell in the Cell. The feud cannot go any further than Hell in the Cell because it's supposed to be the end-all, be-all of all the feuds. Boom, right there. That's what cage matches are for, strap matches, ladder matches, stuff like that. Those stipulation matches, last man standing, I quit. Those stipulation matches are there to specifically end feuds and take feuds from one point to another point, another level, and use that as a term to get it to that next level and end it on a high note and something memorable. So the fact that you put a pay-per-view surrounding it and you have 2 matches that have that same thing and don't really feel like, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Lashley, McIntyre, yes, it's at that point in the feud where they should have a big blow off. I think it should have happened already, but it's been drawn out. But the fire behind it, no pun intended, with Hell in the Cell, it's just not there for them to warrant the Hell in the Cell. Rhea, Charlotte, another feud that's gone to that point and needs to end. They've had a little bit more physicality between the two, especially this past Monday, that you could warrant maybe the Hell in the Cell for them. Rey and Roman, Dominic did get his ass handed to him big time. He got powerbombed out of the ring. Great, camera work by WWE there. But yeah, it doesn't really warrant it, right?
Let me ask you. Yeah, go ahead. Like, God forbid, touch wood, someone comes and beats up your son. Someone looking like Roman Reigns comes and beats up your son, and you're Rey Mysterio, the size of him. Do you want to get in a cell with that man? Really?
No, I'll probably tell my son, get up, get up,
Yeah.
let's get out of
Like
here. Yeah,
I'd rather ask where the gun shop is, and let's
exactly.
I'll
Yeah.
get him with a sniper from far because I still don't
Well,
want to be near him. Like,
yeah, we'll handle it a different way at that point. Yeah.
yeah, what am I getting into a cell with this absolute beast that doesn't lose? Like, it makes no sense. But I'm sure they'll give us a great match.
No, I'm sure. I don't think Roman Reigns is at this point even possible of having a bad match at this point, especially with the character work. Let's get to the comment section real quick. Review Geek 3000 would say, "Yo, great to hear your take on this. Good to see you working alongside with the wrestling community on YouTube, man. Awesome. Say thank you, Review Geek. I appreciate you for tuning in. Yeah, I'm collab with a ton of other YouTubers. Max being one of my favorites. Dan, he's not here right now. He might jump in late, might not, but he's another one of my favorites. You already know Jonesy, Steve from SCW, and Barry. Those guys like that. West Coast Pop. Yeah, all those guys. Love working with other YouTubers. Is awesome though. Chris Wrestling Views. What's up? Hey, Chris, what's up, man? Thank you for joining. Let me know your thoughts on Hell in a Cell. Let us know what you think. There's my brother Michael in the chat. What's up, Michael? All right, so yeah, tell me about the build. How have you felt about the build from both all the matches involved? How have you felt about the build leading up to this pay-per-view?
I mean, it's been Drew and Bobby, yes.
Yes.
Bailey and Bianca's been weak, but okay. Charlotte and Rhea, I think, was probably the first match that was announced for this
I think so.
pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So it's been very half and half. The stories going into it haven't been great. And Roman's match, I would have much preferred, just because of the way the story was going, that no Hell in a Cell, and it's like Roman and Jey Uso going after the Mysterios for the tag team titles. Like, I know they have the whole 30-day stipulation. You have to defend your belt every 30 days. They use it when they want to, because Lesnar never falls under that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Roman could have had a month away from, because there's no real credible challenges, let's be honest, right now. He could have entered the tag division and not win it, because I mean, we've had the conversation about, these guys holding championship and tag team gold, but Jimmy Uso could have done something to cause them losing. And Jey Uso takes a pin, and Roman then obviously gets pissed off with him. So yeah, I think they had the opportunity, but they went for the title match. In all, the build for this has been lackluster, but they moved it around the calendar so that we can get Money in the Bank next month in front of fans. So someone had to be sacrificed. It's Hell in a Cell, whatever. Let's go.
Yeah, Hell in a Cell at this point is a throwaway pay-per-view, right? And it feels like that for a minute, right? It doesn't really feel the same. I think it has to be. I think what killed it more was the red cage. I just think it made it campy and corny at that point, because it's like it's super themed. It's like, it's ugly sweater party, basically, kind of like a pay-per-view. So it's like a themed event. You already know what it is. It's hokey. It's, you're poking fun at it by making it red. Doesn't make a ton of sense. Get to the chat real quick. Chris would say, I think Rhea and Charlotte, it may be a possible return for Becky. I'd take a guess. I mean, maybe. I think more if there's a surprise, it's a call up from somewhere. It's the only thing I can really think of. I don't think there's gonna be a ton of surprises on the show. I think it's a transitional pay-per-view to get some Money in the Bank, when the fans are gonna be there, when they're gonna care a lot more, especially on the Raw brand, when it comes to what they put out there on Monday nights when the fans are there. I think we're gonna get a surprise either in the Lashley McIntyre match or the Reigns Mysterio match, is what I am assuming. What will happen there in terms of that, in terms of surprise. All right, so yeah, the build itself hasn't been really well done. Shayna and Alexa Bliss will go head to head at Hell in a Cell. Something, it's been nobody really cares. The cringy ending of that event.
I've forgotten about that match.
Yeah, exactly. So that I didn't even know it was happening, and so I put this whole stream together yesterday. That match was actually announced and going down. Now I want to get into a match I think I predict will be on this show, and it hasn't been announced yet, but I think they're waiting for this Friday to announce it. Seth Rollins versus Cesaro in some way, shape, or form of another. I think they need to have a match at Hell in a Cell. I don't think they should hold it until Money in the Bank. I think they'll both be involved in the ladder match itself. I think they'll get a match this Sunday at Hell in a Cell. What do you think, Max? You think it's going to happen? Do you think that title behind you will be defended instead of that? What do you think?
I don't think there's going to be any intercontinental title match. There's no real heat behind who even the number one contender is at this point. Apollo stands head and shoulders above everyone else. Cesaro and Seth Rollins, it's one of them ones where they will always give you a good match, so I don't mind seeing it. But where is this feud leading to? We've already kind of had Cesaro get the big win at Mania. I think Seth Rollins beat him after that, maybe on SmackDown.
I
but
think maybe.
yeah, I'm sure Seth Rollins has got a win somewhere in this feud since WrestleMania, and then obviously since then they've just kind of been, sneak attacking each other. So it's like, what happens next? I wouldn't say this is blood feud territory. It's just like we don't like each other. So even if they have a match at Hell in a Cell, it's like, for what reason? You see what I mean? Is that
Yeah.
actually going to be the end of it? Um, yeah, but yeah, I'd rather just get to the point where these guys are both in the Money in the Bank ladder match, like you said.
No, it totally can happen. So, like, the reason I think it is because obviously he takes out Cesaro the way he did, right? With old crazy eyes that he had Seth Rollins after he did it, stretchered him out. He shows up on the Ding Dong segment this past Friday on SmackDown. He knocks on the door and beats down, Seth Rollins. So it's like, what do you do after that then? Like, you kind of figure it leads to a match. So I'm assuming normally they at least like to keep it six match cards because I think Shayna and Alexa would be a kickoff show match. Be honest with you, if I had to choose, maybe. I don't think they wanted to take away too much from the actual Hell in the Cell because it's going to have some supernatural elements to it, probably Lily and all that stuff. I think it'll be a pre-show match. I think. I don't think they'll put Rollins or Cesaro on the pre-show match, but I just feel like you have a lot of time to kill between now and Money in the Bank. So for him to come back and attack Rollins 2 weeks before Hell in the Cell, I think it lends itself to them getting a matchup here at Hell in the Cell.
Well, if they put Shayna and Alexa Bliss on the pre-show, 2 weeks ago, that was their closing angle. That was the main event angle on Raw.
Yeah.
If it goes to the pre-show, that says a hell of a lot. Nothing that we don't know already, because we're not surprised by nothing at this point. But I think maybe if there's a pre-show match, I just remembered that Ricochet and Carrillo, they had a no contest for the number one contenders for the US Championship, so maybe they might do that again.
Yeah, maybe that'd be a good pre-show because, like, I think Sheamus is already healed up from his nose issue, so I think they can maybe have a match of some sort of that on the kickoff show as well. I think it's all hurts everybody involved if it's on kickoff show, no matter who gets involved. Course, so I do think they're going to add another match. So it can either be a U.S. title match, it can either be Cesaro versus Rollins, or it could just be some random tag team match that they want to throw out there, maybe for the Raw Tag Team Champions. Because Omos and AJ don't have a match. There's a lot of people that don't have matches going into this event, right?
Yeah.
Some of it seems kind of wasted as to why they don't, but there's a lot of people that don't have matches going in, so it's pretty interesting. So my cousin Eric would have to say in the chat, word on the street is that Monday Night Raw is pure mierda nowadays. Mierda being Spanish for the word shit, so it's pure shit nowadays. Nilson in the chat. Hey, Nilson, how you doing? Thank you for joining us in this live stream predictions of Hell in the Cell. Says Sheamus deserves better. He definitely does. 100. Now, leading up to WrestleMania, I said Sheamus deserved a nice spot on the WrestleMania card, which he did get. He won the U.S. title, defeating Riddle. But I do think that eventually that title needs to come off him and he needs to get into that main title picture because he does deserve it. I think this past year, he's done some of his best work. I think he's really, really criminally underrated and criminally underappreciated by a lot of people. I think he's very, very, means a lot to the actual roster and to the show itself. He provides a lot, and I think he deserves a lot better. What do you think about Max?
Yeah, I was one of them. I'll hold my hands up. When Sheamus first burst on the scene, I didn't get it. I even tried to come from the patriotic angle that, he's one of ours from this side of the world. I just didn't get it. When he cashed in on Roman Reigns for the World Championship, I think back in 2015 or 16, that was my height of hating Sheamus because I didn't get him, and he's now just pinned my favorite wrestler. And then he went into to do, League of Nations. I said, just what is this stuff? But the minute he got paired with Cesaro and the bar thing happened, and especially like you say in the last 18 months or so, I thought this guy is excellent. This guy is, I get it now. I finally get it. And they built him up very well. He won the title at WrestleMania, the US title, like you said. Since then, unfortunately, he hasn't done much with it. He's hardly been on TV as well. They need to either build up that division a bit or let him drop it. Maybe if Drew becomes champion, then he can go after the WWE Championship with Drew as champion. So we got a proper heel face dynamic.
Yeah, but you remember leading up that Fastlane match was just Sheamus versus Drew for no reason. With no stakes. Yeah, no stakes. Because Drew was already announced as the guy that faced Bobby Lashley at WrestleMania, so just completely threw it away. Interesting you bring up the bar. That's where you saw the range of Cesaro, I think, in the character, right? The range that he has as a performer. And that's really what endeared him to a lot of people, like yourself, myself as well. And I think, yeah, he just there's a ton better. Nilsson will go on to say this. A Sheamus and Keith rivalry would be great. Yes, if we could ever find out where Keith Lee is at, where they got him locked up, where they're holding him, break him out, and he comes back, then we can get this finally. If you watch my reviews, you see the wanted, the missing person poster in the background of my reviews of Keith Lee. If you see him, call us, let us know.
What's the reward? I might have to start looking.
We haven't put one yet. We got to figure that part out. We might put it on. We might start a GoFundMe. It's like fund the reward for finding Keith Lee. It's interesting right here. He says Nilsson will go to say, I want Sheamus matches between January to April again. I remember you brought up, I believe in our last I think it was our last predictions, right? I think you said that Naomi, they tend to remember her around a certain period of time every year. I don't know if it was you or somebody else that brought that up to my attention. I can't remember, but that it seems to be January to April is when you see Naomi kind of get into the mix again, right? It normally. So it feels like that he means this for here. Like Sheamus between January and April was really in that mix. He got that throwaway match that had no stakes involved at Fastlane against Drew McIntyre. If we can get that Sheamus back in, I think it'll be awesome. Add a nice little twist to the feuds. I think it would have been cool to have him maybe in a triple threat in this one with Lashley, McIntyre, and Hell in a Cell. A multi-man Hell in a Cell probably be a pretty cool thing that they haven't done really that many times. I think that'll be a good idea to kind of add there. This one also say Sheamus would be perfect for Bobby because a veteran should beat Bobby, not a young guy. That's a subjective opinion there because you can kind of go either way with it, right? You can use a veteran guy that's maybe not maybe underutilized like a Sheamus, underappreciated like a Sheamus, and then to give him a nice bolt up into the the upper echelon of the card, right? But if you give it to a young guy who beats the dominant, massive, destroyer Bobby Lashley, it does the same things to him as well, but maybe even more. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think to be honest, the writing's on the wall. Obviously, when we get into our predictions, I think the writing's on the wall for Bobby Lashley. The championship. He's had a half decent reign. We can't really complain. There hasn't been a plethora of challengers. It's been Drew. It's been Miz, if you want to count Miz, and Strowman. But he has looked as good as a champion can look, I guess, with what he's been given. And I'm expecting him to drop it. And it depends what you're calling a veteran here, really. But Drew McIntyre is someone that's obviously been about. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, Lashley should have been fed more guys, right? He kind of just kept running into the same wall that was Drew McIntyre, right? It was like he's playing tennis by himself, like nonstop, because he keeps running the same guy. If you would have ran through a bunch of other guys, give Ricochet a shot at that time. The other thing good about Sheamus's, current run as U.S. champ is that you see Humberto Carrillo and Ricochet on TV week in and week out for the most part. It's the only good thing about it. Could have done the same thing with other guys getting fed to Bobby Lashley. Even if Bobby Lashley just runs right through them, at least they're there in a prominent spot, a main event of a Monday Night Raw, stuff like that.
And I've said, when you have, I guess, less charismatic guys, if you want to kind of put it that way, like open challenges is the best way to get them over. Like if you see what Kushida's doing on NXT right now, obviously English isn't his first language. You can't stand there and cut a 20-minute promo and all of that kind of stuff. They just keep feeding Kushida guys. They'll be bringing in new talent and putting over new talent whilst they're doing it. And it's just a good way to solidify someone as champion. If we had that entire roster, just every week, someone steps up for the WWE Championship and just loses to Bobby Lashley. What's his finisher called? The Hurt Lock. Hurt Lock every week. Almost like, when Chris Masters used to do the challenge thing. Like every week until we get to maybe a point of Lesnar, if we were ever going to get Lesnar, then, you can build towards a real story. But, it's what we've come to expect at this stage from WWE, isn't it?
It is, right? It's par for the course for WWE. It's a repetition, especially on the red brand, of how just stuff just keeps getting thrown at you every week and week in and week out. Like, let's talk about Elias versus Jackson Riker. The same match 2 weeks in a row, the same finish 2 weeks in a row. What sense does it make? It doesn't help. It helps nobody involved, right? Like none of that helps anybody. So why do it again? My brother in the chat says the streets are speaking the truth. Hard to fast forward through this shit every week. Talking about Monday Night Raw. It is extremely difficult to get through it because sometimes you want to fast forward through Monday Night Raw and just skip all the matches, but there's so much promos and dead air during Monday Night Raw where you got to stop and like, all right, let me hear what this person has to say. Okay, let's get to the next thing. Kind of keep it moving. Yeah. Eric's big fan of Sheamus stretching people's faces, where he kind of puts his fingers in the mouth and kind of just stretches it out like that. It's good stuff. Nilsson, also regarding Seth versus Cesaro, it really needs to be in the Hell in a Cell. Perfect point, because thank you, Nilsson, for that one, because Cesaro and Seth Rollins was the feud most built for a Hell in a Cell. If you look at it, he destroys Cesaro, crazy-eyed Seth Rollins, destroys Cesaro, puts him in a stretcher. It felt like this is where that needed to end up. Now, you could have substituted either of the Hell in a Cell matches and added this one to it. But again, they want Roman Reigns to end every show, right? Every pay-per-view, they want Roman Reigns to end. Obviously, you know why. I mean, it makes total sense as to why you would want that. Yeah. So you could have had, and they obviously want a Hell in a Cell to be the final match on the show to end the show as well. So you could have had Lashley and McIntyre outside of Hell in a Cell, and then had Cesaro and Rollins inside Hell in a Cell. But both brands get each, two brand matches from brands get Hell in a Cell match. It's a tough kind of thing to go with. I felt like they should have had Roman take the night off and kind of be involved in something to do with the Usos, along with, like you said before, with the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Would make more sense. This is a better of a pay-per-view for Reigns to take off, in my opinion. But yeah, that was the match most suited for the stipulation of Hell in a Cell, and it's a damn shame you didn't get it. But with all out the way, let's get into our predictions, right? I always forget. Let me ask you before we start, what do you think this pay-per-view is going to end up being, like, out of 5? Let's start. I'll ask you now, and then I'll ask you after you do your predictions, because stuff tends to change after you start thinking a little bit more. Let's start with this one now. What do you think out of 5 this pay-per-view is going to end up being?
I'll go about 3.5 out of 5.
Okay.
The one thing that they've done in this pandemic era, as we've been calling it, is give us great pay-per-views, shorter pay-per-views, longer matches, more storytelling within the matches, and, to be honest, great performances. What was the last pay-per-view? WrestleMania Backlash?
Yes.
That was a really good pay-per-view.
Yeah, low-key, real good pay-per-view.
Yeah, like, it was a really good pay-per-view. There wasn't really, like, a terrible match on it. Was the Zombies match on that, or that was WrestleMania?
No, it was WrestleMania Backlash, but we tend to forget about that one.
Okay, yeah. So that was the only rubbish on there. Everything else was good. So, they've been pulling it out of the bag when it comes to pay-per-view. So I'll give them at least a 3.5. Where it's less, it's just because obviously the sell is a factor in a couple matches, and if they're not really going to use that sell, which they're probably not, then they're going to lose points for me personally.
And that's the baseline that we put for takeovers. Like when we did our takeover predictions last week, we said the baseline for NXT takeover is like a 3.5, right? Because it's so.
Well, I think we said 4.
A 4, yeah, okay. So we said 4, right? but like that's for every single takeover that there's ever been, putting that baseline in there. For WWE, it's a different story. But like you said, the pandemic era has brought out really, really solid pay-per-views. They haven't really missed in over a year since last SummerSlam, basically. I think every pay-per-view has pretty much been spot on since then. For better or for worse, they've all been well done in terms of the in-ring product. We're not talking about storylines and stuff like that, because that's totally subjective. You could think one storyline is great, and me and Max, I think it's just absolute garbage, right? So it's all about the match in the ring. The in-ring work has been tremendous, and the pay-per-views, when it's all about just the in-ring work, it's been really well done. And, you have to give a pat in the back to Roman Reigns there, because he's been carrying company completely at this point.
100%.
It's crazy, right? So Nilsson will go out to say, I agree. I agree on, Seth and Cesaro getting that, and Roman taking the night off, or have Jimmy versus Roman. Yeah, that Jimmy versus Roman is an intriguing one, but that would have to be Hell in a Cell as well. Like that needs to be, but it would have made more sense than Rey Mysterio versus Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, the rumors are that they're planning the big bloodline faction for SummerSlam. I feel like they're going to pull out all the stops for tonight, for this Sunday, and then for Money in the Bank, because they got to pack that building, that Las Vegas Raiders football stadium, for SummerSlam. So that's going to be a tough one. And then the weekend they're doing it, always want to check, but I keep forgetting to check if that's the same weekend the Manny Pacquiao fight is happening at the MGM Grand. So
really?
if that's the case, I don't know. I mean, that's rough to kind of do it that way, but we'll see what happens. Let's get these couple things in the chat before we get into our first prediction. West Coast Podcast. Oh, what's up, guys? I don't think a veteran should beat Bobby. If anyone takes it, it's got to be an up and comer. My hope is that they bring Big E over at the upcoming draft. They've been planting the seeds for a few. That would be awesome, to be honest with you. But that's only if Lesnar doesn't get involved, right? If Lesnar does not get involved, then that's totally plausible that Big E can come over in the draft, because the draft is scheduled for that August 30th or the end of August, that last Monday. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the first SmackDown of September, that's the 2 draft nights. So we could definitely see that happen. And then if Lashley's still champion, that's definitely a possibility. It says not that Big E is an up and comer, but he hasn't had the belt yet. Now, what do you think, Max? Do you think we'll talk about the whole Lesnar thing when we get to the predictions of that match? But do you think Big E's a guy who's going to change brands
I think he has to.
because
I
of
think
Roman
that
Reigns?
well, that's one massive
Yeah.
factor. Yeah. I think he has really struggled. SmackDown have shown that they tend to write a better show than Raw. But I think he has really struggled without the New Day. Um, they can make him still have that singles run, but he needs, in my opinion, those guys at least in his corner somewhat. How him and Woods were in his corner for Kofi.
Yep.
I think he's really struggled. I think his better chance to get the big one is on Raw and not SmackDown, not while Roman is doing the madness that he's doing right now. I think he's got to switch brands and go to Raw.
Yeah, and I agree with you that he needs New Day to be with him because it eases it for him a little bit. Like it eases the impression of him being a solo act if he has his 2 partners at least there cheering him on the outside and kind of doing like that. I think it eases that transition and eases it as the perception of him being a solo guy who's ready for that world title spot because you're familiar with the New Day. They're still around technically, and they're there with him. So there's that emotion playing in because they all really genuinely love each other and pull for each other and stuff like that. Just like similar to Kofi. I mean, it's kind of copying it, but it works. So I think you could do it again. And I honestly think you could do it all 3 members of them if you ever wanted to have Xavier kind of go on his own as well.
They need to do Xavier.
Yeah, so I think it works. I just think there's a lot of emotion tied into it. And the fact that you try to separate the 2, I don't think helps either group. They're kind of attached to the hip for the rest of their careers at this point, I think. Anyways, I think they're going to have to be in some shape or another with each other, either if it's just managerial or just kind of on the same brand. I think that's the most important thing. So you see that connection, they still have that interaction, they still joke around, they still have their fun, and then there's that emotion tied into it because, like I said, they all genuinely do. 3 of them care for each other a lot. Let's say West Coast Popcast, Roman's back must be killing him. Yes, I'm surprised the man is still standing. He pretty much has the whole weight of the world on his shoulders. He's carrying the entire company on his back. It is absolutely nuts. And it's the difference between 2 champions. You have Bobby Lashley, who is in a pandemic empty arena champion, just like Drew McIntyre was. And it's hurt their runs, I think. I think the empty arenas, no fans involved other than WrestleMania, I think it's hurt their run. Roman doesn't need fans there. It doesn't matter if he has fans there. He's at that level right now where he's running on all cylinders that he's able to carry it even without the fans being there because it does make a big difference. It doesn't make a ton of sense. No, Lara, hey, how you doing? No, welcome to the chat. He says, I'm calling it either Big E wins the WWE Championship by the end of the year or wins the Royal Rumble 2022. I mean, yeah, I could definitely see that happening. But like me and Max were saying, I think the brand switch is what's going to help him out. And him being there with the New Day will help him out. But no, thank you for joining. I appreciate your comment and thing. Let me know your thoughts on Hell in the Cell itself and who you think is going to end up winning. Xavier needs to win the next King of the Ring. That's a tough one because King of the Ring doesn't have the same pop as it used to. It was similar to that title behind you, IC title, where if you won that, you were on the course to become a megastar, a top guy. It doesn't have that anymore. Just like you win it, now you get the king gimmick, and then you kind of just go along with that, right?
It's like a prop sort of thing.
Yeah.
It could maybe the closest equivalent nowadays would be Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Which I think Xavier would do brilliant work with. If they ever pull the trigger and he actually wins the world championship, that could be very, very fun. But I think he would be fun with a king gimmick as well, though. I think that could work.
It would be entertaining from him, but but then it's just you go down the same route of like the King of the Ring is just there to give you the king gimmick rather than
it's meaningless,
rather than give you those stepping stones for you to kind of just journey your way to the top of the card, which make a lot more sense. But let's get to our the first official match because we talked about a match that I predicted might happen: Rollins versus Cesaro in some form or another. It's Alexa Bliss, Shayna Baszler. This match it has one of the cringiest endings to Monday Night Raw we've seen maybe ever. And that's saying a lot. And it's a matchup that has a lot to do with Reginald. It has a lot to do with Nia Jax. And it just doesn't make a ton of sense as to why it's happening, what Alexa Bliss's whole story is, why she's doing what she's doing, why she has the doll, why use that doll to begin with. It's pretty cringe all throughout, but I think Alexa needs to win this match. But I think something weird and strange is going to happen. Whether it's good or bad, we don't know. But it's most likely going to be probably pretty bad, and it's going to be interesting to happen because, like, the rumor is that Shayna Baszler will become her kind of like Frankenstein monster. That's what the rumor is what I've heard from my guy Jonesy from Jonesy Chats Wrestling. He told me that that's the rumor, that she's supposed to become Alexa's Frankenstein monster, and it doesn't sound great, but that's what I've heard. So we'll see if that ends up happening. But I think Alexa wins this, but I think it's going to be an absolutely just kind of cringe-worthy match. What do you think, Max?
Yeah, the lack of continuity between NXT and main roster absolutely kills me every single time. Shayna Baszler could not be touched in NXT. You know, now she's here, you know, running from a doll, fighting supernatural characters. It's so disappointing. And this is someone that's, for especially for a lady, she's pretty on in her career. She's already in her 40s. So Shayna's not going to be doing this for much longer. And this can't be the way her career ends. Like, please, like, it's Frankenstein. I haven't even heard that one, but yeah, this is very, very poor. Alexa Bliss for the win, and I guess we'll see whatever comes of Shayna and her transformation if that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it from Jonesy. Could be true, could be not. I mean, it's just rumor. I could see definitely something happening like that. But staying with this match here, Nilsson will say Alexa and Shayna is definitely going to be a cinematic match. They haven't done one, right? If I'm not mistaken, in a while, or just a regular cinematic match. I can don't count the zombies as cinematic, even though probably should have been. To end those on a bang. I mean, it makes sense. He says, I absolutely agree. Max, Shayna deserves better. Definitely. She does.
I actually wouldn't mind a cinematic match, like Nielsen's saying, just to end cinematic matches, or at least they're gonna slow down. They might still go back to the well with one or two in the future. But yeah, I wouldn't mind this as a cinematic match. If you're gonna do all the hocus pocus crap and Shayna's gonna change or whatever the case is, yeah, just do it as a cinematic match. Let's at least get some type of different kind of entertainment value from it.
Might as well, because if it's going to be hokey like that, you might as well do it in a cinematic way, so it lends itself better to the hokiness, I would have to say.
Yeah.
Zerst in the chat, yo Zerst, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Let me know what you think of the show of Hell in the Cell. What do you think is going to happen? How do you think it's going to play out? The Shayna Alexa Bliss match. What do you think is going to happen? Is it going to be cinematic? Let me know. And welcoming to the stream, Dan from DW. What's up, Dan?
Oh, come on.
I made it. I had to get a lift, so I was a bit late because I had to drop off a couple of people, and I legged it to the house.
There you go. You love to see the hustle from the most positive YouTuber in the wrestling community I've ever seen. Right there, Dan from DWE. So Dan, you're here now. We're talking about Alexa Bliss versus Shayna Baszler. What do you think is going to go down in this match that neither of me or Mex knew was happening until we started the stream?
To be honest, like that storyline, it's not for me, but I guess the doll will be involved somehow. There'll be some stupid, spooky stuff, and I'm sure Alexa probably win.
Yeah, I'm assuming she probably will. Will it be cinematic? Will it not? We don't know. Nilsson will go out and say, if it changes Shayna for the better, I'll take it. So, I mean, might be on board with the whole Frankenstein gimmick if it ends up happening, if it just makes her dominant and she lays people out. I mean, it could help her out a little tiny bit in that factor, because she's been pretty much of a joke ever since coming to the main roster after the whole Becky feud. Nilsson will say, welcome DWE. I was waiting for you. There you are. There you go. The DWE squad in the chat. All right. So with that match out of the way, let's get to this women's title match right here. Bianca Belair, the champion, taking on Bayley, the challenger. No Hell in the Cell involved. Just a regular match. There's another storyline that the build has been pretty lackluster. Hasn't really worked out that well. A lot of laughing involved, a lot of maniacal laughing involved. Why? I don't know. I'm not excited about this match either. I think Bianca's title run has been really, really lackluster. I think because they're portraying her as too much of a smiley, happy to be here babyface, rather than the physical, anomaly that she is, because she is a physical freak. She's super athletic, powerful. She should be playing off of all that, what got her to the spot that she's in now, rather than trying to change her completely into something she's really not, or she doesn't come off that way like she really is that way, happy-go-lucky, just kind of cheerful baby face. But I'll kick it over Dan because you just got here. What do you think about this match right here?
To be honest, I could not care less. Like, as harsh as it is, like the good one, they're gonna put on a good match wrestling wise, but like I think they should drag this out a bit now. The storyline, I think Bianca wins. Time for Bayley to do something else. Time for a new challenger for Bianca, whether that's Carmella or whoever. I think it's time now to end this feud.
I totally agree with you. I think they may be holding place until Sasha comes back. Maybe for SummerSlam, they want to run it back, Sasha versus Bianca again. And I don't think they have any confidence in anybody else on the women's roster on SmackDown to kind of carry the Bianca Belair feud till then. So that's why they're using Bayley for now. They may have Carmella get thrown into the mix between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam until Sasha returns. I think that's how they're going to play it. But Mex, what do you think about this match?
Yeah, like you said, this is something they have not built very well. Bianca's run, no one. I mean, yes, it's WWE. We probably should have saw it coming, but with the trajectory she was on from the Royal Rumble to winning at WrestleMania, no one thought this would follow. And I wouldn't mind if Bayley pinned her. My guess is going to be Bianca wins. That's my prediction. But if Bayley pinned her and wins the championship, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind at all. Like you're saying, in terms of booking Bianca, like they can make her look as good as she is, physically, athletically, and maybe just from there they can make her get cocky, overconfident, because she's this kind of physical creature above all the other women on SmackDown, and that maybe leads to her downfall somewhere along the line, and we get a surprise loss of the championship. And it's like, yeah, because you got too cocky and stuff, and that's just to kind of work her way back and stuff like that. It's not that hard. You see what I mean? And they don't want to use other women. It's just her, Bayley, laughing, memes at each other all every week. Like, she's not even wrestling or anything like that. Babyface champions love wrestling for no reason, love putting their belt on the line for no reason. We're not even getting that with her. So it's just a very weird run she's on. But I assume she will retain at Hell in a Cell.
I assume so as well. Like I said, I think they're just going to build to like the run it back at the rematch at SummerSlam between the two, Sasha and Bianca. I think Bianca is best when I think she's more of a natural heel. To be honest with you, I get that vibe. When she gets real sassy, she takes off those earrings like that and she's ready to throw down. I think that's her best attribute in terms of character development. And I think the hair, everything like that, she has a tremendous package and everything like that. It's just they're booking her or making her seem just so happy-go-lucky. She needs to stop smiling so much. She needs to be a little more serious. Have a little bit more attitude and aggression. I just think a heel turn is what we need from Bianca Belair to kind of spicing up her run. I don't think we're gonna get it though, to be honest with you. Interesting from my friend Brian, he has to say Shayna kind of looks like Frankenstein. LOL. So I mean, it may fit in, it may work for her in the end. We'll see how everything turns out for Shayna going forward. Eric would say Big E is champ. I can't see him as champ. What do they do with him after here wins? Feed it to him, debuting Karrion Kross. So saying like he doesn't see a Big E as champ, but if he wins it, what do they do with him? Do they feed him to Karrion Kross after that? Now, well, like we said before, Big E, I think we needs that. Me and Max said Big E needs to switch brands, get back with the New Day in some shape or form, not as a trio, like in terms of matches, but them being his corner and still have that camaraderie that they have together. And then maybe he can win the title then. I just, in this current incarnation on SmackDown by himself, I just don't think he's finding his footing where he needs to find it. But we'll see what happens with that going forward. So we're all picking Bianca Belair for this match.
Yeah. What matches have you done before I give quick fire predictions to catch up?
Okay, no, we just did the first one we did was Alexa versus Shayna.
All right.
Yeah. So far we're all picked Alexa and we all picked Bianca, correct?
Yeah.
All right, correct. At the end of this, we're gonna try to go back to our NXT TakeOver predictions to try to figure out what the hell our records are going into this one first. But let's get to the next women's match here, and it's Rhea Ripley, the Raw Women's Champion, taking on Charlotte Flair, who's like 20-time women's champion already. So she's going back to the well, trying to win this title again. My biggest problem with this feud is that they've made Nikki Cross and they made Asuka, even Asuka coming off a terrible title run that was booked horribly. They make them look like just pawns in a game to get Rhea and Charlotte to this level, to this match, and they become pretty much jokes. I mean, this whole feud seems to be built around obviously the past stuff, but right now the fact that neither of them could beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes, which is just like bury Nikki Cross any more than that, and like I don't even know you could. But I'll kick it over to Max. What do you think about this match?
I'm happy you started with what you don't like about this feud, because what this feud has just shown is how much, obviously, the characters I'm talking about, Charlotte and Rhea, are idiots. They don't understand how a 2-minute match, the beat the clock challenge works. On Raw the other day, Charlotte doesn't understand the premise of a count out. It's like, why are you booking them like they're absolute dunces, which they're not? It's so frustrating. Rhea Ripley can't afford to lose here. If Rhea Ripley loses to Charlotte here, it's over for Rhea Ripley. She might as well just go back to as far as NXT UK, because Charlotte, I know Charlotte is that woman, she is that person for WWE, but like, we're still very early into Rhea Ripley's run. If they just peel the belt off her straight away to give it to Charlotte at the first opportunity, there's no hope. The ceiling has been reached, and she might as well go off and just do anything else. I'm gonna back Charlotte for a win here. Sorry, I'm gonna back Rhea Ripley for the win. But again, not surprised if Charlotte turns around and gets the win.
It wouldn't surprise me either. Now, they don't have a ton of challengers on the Raw roster for this title, so we could end up seeing this match go all the way to SummerSlam, to be honest with you. Rhea versus Charlotte again. So Rhea may have that may help Rhea out right now, because she may retain just to hold it till then, or she may lose it to kind of win it back at SummerSlam, try to get some momentum back behind her. It's interesting. But Dan, what do you think?
Well, they've overdone it. Like they did it well last year, Rhea and Charlotte, and like it didn't make sense for them to fight after Oscar for Rhea. But it's like one of them ones again. Like, what is there in the actual storyline to make me care to watch it? What's the hook to it? I can't think of it. They've both been an idiot in the clock match.
Dan, have you turned heel?
I know.
What's your optimism? What's going on?
I had the cardio training today. I wasn't wrestling. Maybe that's happened. But yeah, like Charlotte is a flair though, which you're a flair. You're naturally going to be good in title matches. But yeah, just Rhea needs to win. Quick match. Like, I'm not invested in it. So like, just have it quick. Have a quick, good power match.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think she should win, Charlotte. But it should be interesting. I mean, like I said, I think they don't have anybody else really to go after this title that's viable in any spot whatsoever. Asuka had the title for a while. Terrible run, booked terribly. Nikki Cross is a joke right now. Alexa Bliss seems like the only person, unless we get a Frankenstein Shayna Baszler who comes in and just wrecks everybody and takes that title. So Alexa Bliss is pretty much the only person that eventually, in the spot that she's in, just in terms of where she's placed on the show, can vie for that title and actually be a viable challenger that can actually win the belt. So maybe that's the only person you can get to at SummerSlam winning this title is Alexa Bliss. Who comes out of this match should be interesting, but I think we're all in agreement picking Rhea Ripley.
Yeah. They could have built up Naomi, but we all know what happened with her on Monday night.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is with Naomi, it's not January, so that's when they start like revving her back up. When Royal Rumble comes around, they rev her back up just to get her to WrestleMania. But yeah, she got the loss to Piper Niven and Eva Marie. Does the win go to Piper Niven or does it go to Eva Marie? Eva Marie. She lost to Eva Marie, right? Or Piper Niven? Who does the win
she
go
has
to?
A name? I didn't think she had a name.
They didn't say her name. That's true, right? They didn't say her name on the show, right?
They
just said, "Who is this person? Who is that?"
I was wondering who did she lose to? That invisible person.
But who does the win go to? Because it felt like they kind of gave the win to Eva Marie, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Eva Marie won.
Yeah, Eva Marie kind of technically. I guess that's her new gimmick, right? She doesn't fight, but she actually wins the matches for the unnamed person that wins it for her. But let's kick it over to the next men's match. We have 2 more matches to go in the predictions. Short card so far. If they don't add Cesaro Rollins or any other match before it, and it's this match right here. Bobby Lashley, the WWE champion, the almighty WWE champion, taking on Drew McIntyre. It's the latest entry in WWE's like fascination with having feuds that never end. And it's different when you have a feud that never ends compared to a feud that never ends but doesn't have as many matches together as these do. These guys have faced each other a bunch of times. If you have a feud that takes a while, they don't face each other that much in it, right? They have different variations of it, and stuff kind of happens where they kind of stay together for the most part. You know, those older school storylines, they would go on for a long time, but they're not wrestling each other that many times. Like there wasn't that many pay-per-views and stuff like that. This one, we've already got how many pay-per-views in a row they're taking each other on, or involved with each other. I mean, it goes back to Elimination Chamber of last year, right? That's when Bobby Lashley, I believe, he won the title. So
But
no, he
that
won
was
the
this year.
that was this.
Year. But
That's this year,
when,
right? Yeah.
When Drew won the title at WrestleMania last year, 2020, Bobby Lashley was his first competitor at
exactly.
Backlash.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, since then.
Yeah, so that we have that. Then they took a hiatus. They came back to it for this year's WrestleMania and the Elimination Chamber prior to it. You know, leading up to Bobby Lashley win the title, they go back again. They have the WrestleMania Backlash match, but it's a triple threat match. And then Braun Strowman gets released right after it, and then you're leading into this match, and then most likely Money in the Bank. You know, and then something else. But even though the supposed stipulation is if he loses this match, Drew McIntyre, he can never face Bobby Lashley again for that title. So if he loses, I'm assuming he goes into Money in the Bank. And then God knows what happens there. But I'm going to stick with Bobby Lashley here. And I do think something surprising might happen after this match to set up for SummerSlam, which is the rumored SummerSlam match. But I'll kick it over to you, Mex. What do you think about this match?
I love your optimism. I don't share it, unfortunately. I think that, yeah, like I was kind of insinuating earlier on in the stream, that the Bobby Lashley, the almighty era has kind of run its course. Very interesting that Drew pinned Bobby Lashley this past week on Raw in the tag match. However, I still would have said, and I'm still going to stick to, Drew is going to regain the WWE Championship. Drew is the big babyface champion that never got a real babyface run in front of fans because of the pandemic. Yeah, we all thought at WrestleMania he was going to win because there was fans there, but obviously the next night on Raw, there's no fans. So maybe this is them, okay, you're going to win this title before our fans come back in 2 weeks' time or whatever it is. And yeah, you're going to get the run you deserved in front of fans. And then we'll go from there. The match you're insinuating with, I guess, Lesnar with Lashley, it doesn't necessarily need the title, does it? It's just a big, beefy match where these guys can go at it. I'm not so sure Lesnar's going to come back anymore, to be completely honest. But yeah, I think Drew wins this match. They've thrown in the stipulation of this is your last chance ever. So I think as well that kind of puts the writing on the wall. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you make a compelling argument towards it, right? He never got the run that he did deserve the run that you're talking about, right? Drew McIntyre with the title in front of fans, everything like that. The fans were hyped to see him win the Royal Rumble that year. It's unlucky for him and unfortunate that he wasn't able to have fans in his crowning achievement of beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and he never got fans leading up into after that as well. So does he deserve it? Yes. Right now, no, because Bobby Lashley. Even if Bobby Lashley hasn't been booked that great, and the whole thing he's been doing with now he has all these women with him and they're out there cheering him on and stuff like that. I mean, it is what it is. It's fine, but it's really nothing. It doesn't add anything to the character. He was the dominant monster champion. Maybe they're showing some chinks in his armor for Brock Lesnar. Who the hell knows? But it could be that way. But then what do you think? Who do you think is going to come out on top of this match?
I'm actually looking forward to this. Like, these two, they've never put on a bad match. Like, they have had a lot of matches, but like this, they've never been bad. Like, Hell in a Cell suits them to the way they wrestle. But I do think someone's going to make an appearance during this match, but it's not Brock Lesnar. I got Kofi Kingston somehow getting involved. I think it's the right time. To my knowledge, he's been heel of the New Day, but we've never seen a solo Kofi heel run, or even I think he should team up with MVP. Everything MVP said to him is actually true. Since Kofi Mania, you fell off. There's a reason why you're not on the card, and Lashley is. It is actually true when you think about it.
Do you think MVP is going to turn on Bobby Lashley then?
No, I think Kofi might help Lashley win and then turn on him after, try go after him. Think sort of like trick MVP a bit, because MVP is like saying, I'll come over. Or it's either going to go that way, or we do get a heel Kofi and we get him turn on like Xavier, join MVP, sort of help out Lashley a bit. But, add it in. It's like adding a decoration on top of a cake. That'd be amazing if he got involved, which I think so. And my win, it is interesting the fact that Drew's like, he cannot challenge for that title again if Lashley's champion. So that's why that does make me lean towards Drew a bit more. I like, we've all got the same predictions so far. So I'm going to go with Drew just to spice it up. But I've always backed the Brits in my prediction, and they've never come out on top. So hopefully 3 times the charm.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's an interesting storyline that they could have done. I think it probably would be more plausible if Money in the Bank wasn't so close. So, like, the way I would see it is that he turns heel, Kofi aligns himself with Bobby Lashley and MVP, but then he wins Money in the Bank and then kind of dangles that around, and that's how you do the turn on Lashley. But if you would have done that, months prior, I think it probably would have timed itself out better. But I can't see him getting involved. I think somebody's one way or another is going to get involved in this match more likely than the Roman Reigns match, because there's another match for SummerSlam rumored for Roman Reigns. I think more of a surprise is going to happen in this match, whether it be Kofi, whether it be Lesnar, or just whether it be some random guy from backstage. Who knows? Somebody in catering just decides to make a run in. We could see something like that happen. But you're right though, Dan. And when you say that this match lends itself better to both their styles, two massive men beat the living hell out of each other inside a steel cage. I'm kind of hoping they break the cage, but then how do you do Roman's match if Roman has to end the show? Obviously, he's like the new Hogan. Because Hogan must pose at the end of every show. You must acknowledge the tribal chief at the end of every show. So it makes a ton of sense. But we'll see. I think it's gonna be a really good matchup. These guys won't have a bad match against each other. Them inside Hell in a Cell can be interesting, will be interesting. I think it's more interesting to see what happens at the end of the match and where this leads to, because remember, if he loses, he can't face him again. So if Lashley wins, who's his next opponent? And I'm not sure if Lashley Kofi, in terms of how WWE sees them market the match they want to put out there, bigger mainstream recognition than Kofi Kingston, and that person is Brock Lesnar. And that's like, remember, all roads lead to Las Vegas. In this juncture, all roads lead to Las Vegas.
Speaking of SummerSlam opponents, in my prediction video and the match that I put Goldberg in for Lashley, because that match would be brilliant. It'd be just copy and paste a Drew McIntyre match, but with Lashley. And I genuinely think it's a worthy, like, everyone wants to see Lashley Brock Lesnar, but what's Lesnar done since the pandemic? Like, he's just been away. You don't want to know. So I genuinely think Goldberg is actually more deserving than Lesnar of a title shot. And Goldberg's still a draw. Fans still love him. You can see his 65,000 people doing the Goldberg chants with his massive entrance, all the pyro. And like they missed out on him with Mania. So, I think in this Lashley would be very interesting.
I could totally see Goldberg coming back and having that match. It's just the only thing they worry about Goldberg is he's gonna knock himself out during the match. That's the only thing you gotta worry about with Goldberg. Go ahead, Max. What are you gonna say?
Yeah, I'm just not sold that Lesnar's coming back.
Same.
So obviously, where everyone's prediction is all around, leading to SummerSlam, but I'm not actually sure Lesnar comes back at this point, and you need a big match for the WWE Championship at SummerSlam anyway. So if he does or he doesn't, we will assume that Lesnar will be involved with Lashley. Who's Drew's opponent at SummerSlam?
In my video, I put Keith Lee as almost this like a welcome back match, almost like let's show what these two can actually do, because they did in January when they had that match on. I think it was Legends Night they had it on.
Yep,
it was fantastic, and it'd be a very good way to bring Keith Lee straight back into where he was before in that upper mid card.
That's if they know that he's going to be able to return by then, right? So like whatever issues he's having, that's the only problem. Is like, if you got an idea as to when he's going to return, then you can work it around him. They got to do something though. Like I said, all roads lead to Vegas, and Vegas is the biggest show of this year after WrestleMania,
isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, I would say like WrestleMania this past one, and then because that was the first return of fans. So like this Vegas show it's massive. It's huge. It's
a big deal.
It's gonna be otherworldly. It has to be the biggest show that they can think of. Sans this next WrestleMania coming up, right? Like that's what it's got to be. It's got to be at that point. It's got to get to that point, and they have no other choice but to try to bring out as much as they possibly can. Now, do you think Vince McMahon himself would agree to doing a stadium show on a Saturday night in Las Vegas in a brand new football stadium, 1 year old, that's never had fans in it? I don't think it's because the football season didn't have any fans in it, so it's never had fans inside the stadium that I know of. Do you think he would make that decision without knowing that if he could get Brock Lesnar, or if he could get John Cena, or if he can get so and so to be a headline that show?
John Cena is a shoe-in. John Cena is happening. 100%.
I think Cena's 100. I think I'm not sure Lesnar, but I think with SummerSlam, right? Vegas, Saturday night, wrestling fans are going to take over the casino. It is mainstream. That's what you call mainstream. If Lesnar come back, yeah, like, then it is mainstream. Like, that's why you attract people my age, who's like 18, 19, going, oh my God, they're having a party in Vegas and a fancy casino, and they're fighting, big fans. And I think if Lashley retains, they got two options. You go all in with Kofi. Kofi Mania was a huge success. And like they did that at WrestleMania 35. The fans still was sold still. And I do think Kofi is more of a draw than people realize. He is a mainstream star in an era where there's not many. Because like all my mates know Kofi Kingston. They don't watch wrestling, but they used to back in the day. They all know who Kofi Kingston is. Like I think
Kofi is everything you're saying he is, Dan. But like you said, if Bobby Lashley retains and we're on the road to SummerSlam, Lesnar has to be next.
Yeah. It's gonna
if
be a letdown.
Bobby Lashley is going to retain.
Yeah,
there is no other, because at that point he's beaten the top guy, and I say top guy because although he's carrying the championship, he's not the top guy on Raw. Let's be completely honest. That they still look at Drew McIntyre like he's number one.
Yeah.
If he beats McIntyre and walks out of that cell with the championship, you have to give him Lesnar. You have to do it.
Yeah, because if and it's not throwing any shade at Kofi, he's obviously like, I mean, the word legend is thrown around a lot, but it applies to Kofi Kingston, his longevity and all that stuff like that. It applies to him. But if they saw him in that same light, then he wouldn't have lost to Lesnar in that quick a time on that first episode of SmackDown, right?
Yep.
Because in the end, it's all about the financials, all about the bottom line of it. And I don't think Vince, being the genius businessman that he is, because he just is, with all the deals that he's done recently, all the money he's made, to book that stadium show on a Saturday, Las Vegas stadium that I don't believe has ever had fans in it since it opened up last year. You got to show up with something that's just like balls to the wall. This thing's gonna be nuts. Like, even if the show ain't that great, it just ends up not being that great. The card itself, it's all about the marquee, the names on the marquees, what draws the people in. No 6-star match has ever drawn a crowd. It's all about the names on that marquee, and that's what it is. I just personally, I think, but this is an interesting question from my guy Brian. If Lesnar comes back, does he come out with Heyman? I think so. Yes, it's a throwback to the classic manager, the classic Jimmy Hart's, Bobby Heenan's, Jim Cornette's, Slick. I love Slick. I thought it was such an awesome manager. Those guys that came out multiple times, the hardest working guys on the shows were those managers back then, because they came out 3 or 4 times a night with 3 or 4 different guys, tag teams. I think that'd be perfect throwback if Heyman comes out Raws with Lesnar and SmackDowns with Roman. Classic throwback manager that have multiple clients under his brand of management. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'm with you. I am somewhat with you. Obviously we would still want to get to a point one day when it's Lesnar versus Roman,
of course,
in their
yeah,
current
of course,
iterations, and we'll obviously cross that bridge when we get to it. But I think even like you're saying, if Bobby Lashley retains, and then you just see Paul Heyman waddle out as he does, and he almost gives Lashley like papers, like you've been served, and it's Lesnar that's coming out next. Like, that would just be excellent. So I'm all for Bobby Lashley retaining, but it's got to be Lesnar afterwards. But my prediction is Drew to win the championship.
But that's an interesting cliffhanger, right? If he comes out, even because like I said, Roman has to end the show. So if he comes out after Lashley wins Heyman and just gives him something like that, like an envelope, and just leaves away the cliffhanger, you don't know what it is. Does that mean that Lesnar's coming or something like that? You know what I mean? Something like that, like a cliffhanger that you leave that match on. And then here comes Heyman again, waddles his ass out. Well, no, he'll be later on, because they'll put the Hell in the Cell probably either to start the show, middle, before the second one. So probably work that way. It'll be a tremendous little like tease. And if they do that, it'd be awesome. But rounding out the prediction for this match, I am picking Lashley. Max, you're picking Drew McIntyre?
Yep.
I'm going with Drew McIntyre, so I'm back in the breadth.
All right, there we go. So it's the only spot we've differed so far in this predictions. Now we're going to get to the last match of the show, which is going to be the final match, because Roman Reigns. Roman must end the show. You must acknowledge him at the end of the show. It's a weird match because he just decided to destroy the Mysterios 1 week then destroy Dominic the next week. And now Ray's like, you know what? We need to have this match. And for some reason, it's going to be in the Hell in a Cell because they want Roman to end the show, obviously. So that's what we're going to get. Do the Usos get involved? Does Dominic get involved? Does Dominic get thrown off the top of that Hell in a Cell by Roman Reigns and we never see Dominic again? What happens in this match? It's an interesting one. Does it need to happen? No, I think Roman could have took the night off. But do we see the bloodline align here? Because there are rumors that they have massive plans for them at SummerSlam with somebody, you know, that you technically cannot see. So where does this end up? How does this match end up? I think Reigns obviously wins. I don't think there's any shadow of a doubt there, but more interesting to see what happens after the match, what happens during the match, who's there, who isn't, what happens, who gets crazy and whatnot. But I'll go to Mex first. What do you think?
So, you know, one of the closing images in regards to this story that we saw was backstage. You know, Roman had basically manipulated Jimmy into thinking this was world class, by the way. He literally manipulated Jimmy into thinking that you've caused all of this. Now look at Jay, he's run off, blah, blah, blah. Go and fix it.
Classic abusive relationship tactics.
This was excellent. And then, yeah, Jimmy ran off to go save his brother. Now, I don't know how they can kind of come together. I haven't pieced that together yet. I don't need to kind of book anything in this story because they've just done a really good job so far. But yeah, Roman for the win. I wouldn't mind seeing Dominic get thrown off the top of the cell. I'm sure he would do it. Or, you know, they started building those little ledges at the side of the cell.
Okay.
I think Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton went through it last year. They got to this little ledge and they jumped off and went through the announcer's table. So maybe if Dominic falls from there, like halfway up or something like that, he gets trapped and has to watch Rey Mysterio get completely annihilated by Roman Reigns. Something like that. But I want it to be really devastating. Like, Rey Mysterio needs to regret asking for this match with Roman Reigns. So yeah, he's gonna win. Roman's gonna win. Roman's my pick. But I might, you know, I won't go as far as say I need to see blood because this is WWE. But
yes,
yeah, we need to see something extreme, and maybe that's where you see Jimmy jump in and be like, "Yo, it's enough. Like, stop," or maybe something like that.
The way I would probably think they would probably most likely, or the smartest way maybe to book it, would probably have to be, yeah, Dominic's gonna get thrown through something because he's got to earn his stripes, right? He has to, you know, pay his dues. So this is how you do it, right? The beating with the kendo stick and all stuff like that, and then the beating he got from Roman Reigns and the power bomb out the ring, even those on a crash pad or whatever. Yeah. You know, I think he's gonna take a big bump here. I do think that they both guys will get so beat up and so destroyed that by Friday of the following week, they will not really be able clear to compete, but Roman will force them to. And that's how Jimmy and Jay win those tag team titles off of them. And Jimmy is hesitant because he knows he only won it because these guys got absolutely destroyed by Roman Reigns and they're not 100%, right? And that's how they win the titles. And then maybe, you know, maybe that's when he finally acknowledges Reigns and the bloodline begins. But I think that's probably, generally speaking, maybe the more plausible way for it to go down. Because not only does it assert even more dominance from Roman Reigns as the alpha and the omega of all WWE, it also helps out the story wise of like, you know what, they need him. He provides for them. Look, you guys couldn't beat them. I provided those titles to you because I beat the living hell out of these guys, and they weren't ready for you guys when you face them. That's why we all have the gold and stuff like that.
You have hit the nail on the head. WWE needs to hire you. That is how it should be done.
Because it's like it to me, it's yeah, it's I mean, yeah, you don't want to talk about it in that sense, but it's an abusive relationship that he has, right?
It's toxic.
It's toxic. So the way he's able to manipulate them and manipulate Jimmy into thinking that it's his fault where Jay in the position that Jay's in right now is genius. And I think that more, it just shows that, look, I'm providing for you. So like you manipulate the situation so that they perceive you as the person they need in their life to succeed. And then that's what Roman's doing. And I think that might be the smartest way to go about it, is for him to destroy both guys. Friday Night SmackDown comes around. They're not clear to compete. Roman forces it some way or another. I don't know how he would, but it asserts more dominance from him. And then it gives Jimmy and Jay those titles. But Jimmy's kind of like, you know what? We didn't earn these. but I have to acknowledge him because we have it because of him. But I can get over to Dan. What do you think?
Like this story, like just the whole Roman and the Usos little storyline is just so many details. Like Jay's in a tussle. He's got to pick. He's having the run of his life, the career of his life, and he's got to choose between that and his twin. And you've got also then also on the other side, you got Jimmy who's like trying to fight to win his brother back. Like he never thought he'd be fighting to win his brother back. And like it's just crazy how it's all to now. And you got Roman trying to keep aggression and everything, and we've slowly seen him sort of losing that bit of control, especially since Jimmy's come back. We've seen him slowly like this match gonna be great as well. Roman and Reigns. Like, it's a fresh matchup, which how rare is that since we've had the rematch era in the past couple of months. Like, it's a fresh match. Ray's like they're both world class wrestlers. Dom, he's brilliant on SmackDown, taking that power bomb to the outside. Like that gif is one of my favorites now. And like you get chucked off something big, or you do something extreme, and I just add to it, show how bad Roman is. He's putting his opponent's son through something ludicrous. But yeah, like I could also see it. Like I think Jay's gonna be caught up in two minds. It's all gonna play into this Hell in a Cell match around the cage. Like we had it one year. It was when it was Braun and Roman in Hell in a Cell. We had Dolph Ziggler and we used to hang with Drew McIntyre. They were climbing the cell, and Seth and that Dean Ambrose at the time were chasing after him. I can see it end up being like that with the Usos and Jimmy being caught. Whether does he help Roman and Jay, or does he step out? Like Roman's obviously gonna win. Like I can't see. The only person I can see Roman losing to is Cena at SummerSlam. But this has made me realize SummerSlam is make or break for WWE.
Yes.
This show will decide the next 2-3 years of the ratings, the everything. They literally put in all their chips. It's all on black. It's Vegas themed. It's literally all on black, and that black is SummerSlam.
Yes. This is the real Double or Nothing.
This literally is.
It is.
The fans going to be in party mode. It's a chance. If you're in Vegas, mainstream people are going to see it. You're in a city like that. And yes, I don't think Cena returns. I think they're going to keep it really close up, maybe up until past 2 weeks before SummerSlam. Well, Roman wins. It's going to be fun. A lot of weapons involved. Ray had that match with Seth last year at Extreme Rules. A lot of weapons. He's been through the wars since coming back, Ray. So it's just going to be fun in general. Like, fun match. Roman wins. Dom will get chucked or something ludicrous. You'll have all the storytelling with the Usos and Roman's toxic, manipulative ways. And even Heyman probably will add to it. It'll all be great.
It will. And it's some of the best storytelling WWE's done in a long, long, long time. I'm talking about storytelling to the level of a year-long or more than a year-long tale that they've been telling and weaving their way through. Similar. I mean, it's up there with Hogan Savage with Elizabeth, that year-long story with such subtle moments that weave that story throughout. Hogan, Andre rips off the chain, all that stuff like that. Like the years they've been friends, those types of storylines, Owen and Brett, like those storylines that just weave their way through over time. You have this, and even helps out that they're actual family members. And the fact that he's so manipulative, he's manipulating them, but it puts a smile to your face because of how well it's done and how much you're a fan of Roman, right? You're generally speaking, you're not supposed to be like cheering that stuff on, but you are in this instance because it is Roman Reigns. I think we're all in agreement, obviously, that Roman wins this. It's just going to be interesting to see what happens during this match and what transpires after this match. But Dan, you said it perfectly. They have all their chips on the table for the Vegas show. Now, Double or Nothing takes place in Vegas, but it's at the MGM Grand, which isn't the biggest arena. Only fits like about 11,000 people or something like that, small amount. This is the brand new football stadium. This is WrestleMania level attraction. That's what they got here. And they're gonna have to go all out because, again, like you said, the chips are all on the table for this matchup. All right, so that's the matches that we've chosen. We only differ on one match, and that's the Bobby Lashley Drew McIntyre match. And I think you guys are just being pessimistic on that one. But let's go to this point. All right, so after you do your predictions, Max, you still think it's gonna be 3.5 out of 5?
Yeah, at a minimum. Yeah, I think we're gonna get a good, a good show. The coin flip for me is on the Shayna Alexa match. That's the one where I just that can make or break. That can be like the zombie match of this card.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, other than that, I think everyone else is gonna deliver.
What about you, Dan? What do you think out of 5? What do you think this pay-per-view is going to be?
I think it's gonna be far. I'm going 4.55. I think it's the one that WWE sometimes they have a bad build to a pay-per-view, and then that pay-per-view just ends up being one of the best ones of the year. We sort of saw it with Fastlane, like that. Everyone was slitting that down, and it ended up being really good. Like, and with the Hell in a Cell stipulation, it's always fun to watch a Hell in a Cell match, even if it's not the best match. It's always fun if it's in a cell. So I think it'd be a really good show, and like you got probably the two best people you can have there, Ray, Roman, the two experienced people. They've done Hell in a Cell before. They'd be great. And like it's sort of like Lesnar could show up, Kofi could get involved with MVP. Drew might never challenge for that title if Lashley wins. There's a lot of things can happen in this show as well. So I think overall it'll be pretty good.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a good solid show. Like I said, they've been on a run. 3.5 is the baseline right now for the current iterations of WWE pay-per-views for the past year, 18 months. And I think it's gonna be another solid one going forward. Let's see. What's gonna be your biggest takeaway coming out of this pay-per-view? Just as a prediction, what do you think is gonna be the biggest takeaway coming out of this pay-per-view? I'll start with Max first.
I think depending now, I may say this and they may change it with obviously Money in the Bank being the next pay-per-view and SummerSlam, which is going to be the biggest show of the year.
Yep.
But I think Rhea Ripley, if she retains against Charlotte, then cool, fair enough. You're back in, you're back in there. If Charlotte picks this title up on Sunday, I think that's just going to say a lot in terms of they don't trust anybody else. And maybe it's a thing where they don't trust anyone else. They don't have anybody else in terms of challenges. So they'd rather just similar to what they did last year, keep the belt on Asuka because Asuka's just, good enough. And then there's only one person that's like an echelon above Asuka, and it's Charlotte.
Yeah.
So if they don't trust Rhea Ripley or they don't think, she's doing much, with the belt, they'd rather just it sit on Charlotte and she does exactly that, nothing else with it, but at least she's got it. So I think that'll be pretty telling as well as Drew and Lashley. Like I said, if Lashley wins, then we're in for a good summer, I'd like to think. But I think Drew, this is his time, given the stipulation, what he went through. I say that like it's dramatic, but what he went through in terms of not having fans in front of him last year, kind of, the writing's on the wall for me that Lashley's going to lose. But Lashley and Rhea Ripley retaining, both of them, I think will be pretty big coming out of this if it happens.
Let's get to the chat real quick before I get to Dan's takeaway. CN Nation Dog say, I still hype for Hell in a Cell. Just have my fingers crossed we don't get another Rollins and the Fiend finish. It was a pretty rough one. I mean, I don't think they go to the well twice on that one.
So I was actually a big fan of that finish. Now I know the match shouldn't have finished, with someone using a sledgehammer and all of that kind of stuff. It's a Hell in a Cell match. It's a non-DQ match. But Rollins picking up a sledgehammer, trying to take a man's head off. I mean, I guess the gripe is that the match shouldn't have finished, right?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's mainly what it is. Yeah, because it's like the Hell in the Cell. It's like
that match it's underrated. Like if you take away that last finish, but that match is actually really underrated.
I think it just caught people off guard because of the red cell, the red lights. I think that's what people don't really like and stuff. I don't know for those of us that watched it at home, how much that affected us. I can understand if from a live viewing perspective, how that might have changed, your perception of the match. But like Dan said, I really enjoyed that match.
Yeah, I mean, the lighting itself, I find it distracting, right? Like you're watching, it's distracting to look at, like the red, everything's so red. It's very distracting. It doesn't come off well on camera. And I feel terrible for the people that are watching it live, like in person. Jesus, I mean, that sounds like it was horrible to watch. That's mainly everybody's gripe with it. The match could have ended like that, but if it wasn't all red on everything, like Eva Marie all over the place, then it would have been fine. I think it would have been something people wouldn't still talk about to this day. West Coast Pop, biggest takeaway or question is if Drew, I'm sorry, I skipped one. Rhea and Charlotte should have been booked in the cell. That's my main issue. And Alexa versus Shayna is a toss up. True. that's the one that should have been booked along with, to me, it should have been them two and then Cesaro Rollins in Hell in the Cell. Those would have been two Hell in the Cell matches. In my opinion, it should have been. Alexa and Shayna is a toss up. I mean, it could surprise the hell out of us. We could be like, oh, that was actually pretty cool. Shout out to, Frankenstein and whatnot, but we'll see what happens going forward. I mean, it's just like, it's a toss up. Definitely is. Biggest takeaway or question for West Coast Pop is if Drew loses, where does he go? That's an interesting one.
There's a part of me that, well, I don't want two things to happen. I don't want Drew to win the Money in the Bank, and I don't want Edge to win the Money in the Bank. But there is a part of me that thinks if Drew loses in the draft, he goes to SmackDown. And maybe he is the guy that gets one over Roman. Obviously, him and Roman have met twice in their careers so far, I think. Once at WrestleMania, and the other time was at Survivor Series.
Last year.
Roman's won both times. Yeah, so I think he may be the guy to go over there and try to put Roman in line.
I totally agree with you because the first meeting at WrestleMania was when Roman came back from his second battle with leukemia. So he obviously couldn't lose that match, generally speaking, in terms of storyline and aspect. The second match, Roman was too much on a tear. You couldn't beat him because he hasn't been beaten. So it's all about timing at that point. So if they go for the third, the rubber match, well, it's not really a rubber match because these guys going for the sweep.
But at this point, the story's there that Drew can't beat
exactly.
Roman, so.
Yes. And then Roman can be beat technically at that point because there's no underlying things behind it, really. Roman's been on a massive run, been on a tear. He can afford to get the loss, and he doesn't have anything outside of the ring that's kind of affecting him and causing that him most likely winning.
And Drew is credible to lose to.
Yes.
Like, we wouldn't doubt it makes sense.
Yeah, and the way he's booked as well is makes total sense. What do you think, Dan? What do you think about that? Do you think he can be drafted to a different brand?
Roman vs. Drew is the biggest match WWE can do between current stars. Like, it was magic at Survivor Series. Every segment was must see. The match blew everyone out. We had high expectations and it surpassed it. And it is like that should be the main event for Mania. Like, no matter how they go about it, if they decide to put the belt on Drew and then unify the titles of champion versus champion. Or just you have Drew to find dethrone Reigns, move him to SmackDown, fresh opponents for Drew, and someone can take that space up on Raw then as well.
Yeah, it makes sense because what you could do is you can have the title unification thing as well at WrestleMania, but this is a WrestleMania main event in the making right here, right? Drew Roman. You want to do it this year if you don't have like The Rock or whatever for Roman at WrestleMania. You could do it this year because you got to fill 100,000 people inside of AT&T Stadium in Dallas. You got that. You can have Drew win the title. I mean, imagine this Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble.
As in the Royal Rumble match.
Is in the Royal Rumble match. This Roman Reigns right now, the one you have now, not the one that won previously and stuff like that, but that's been at the end of all of them. This specific Roman Reigns in the Royal Rumble match.
He has to win, and Jimmy and Jay have to be there helping him win to ensure that there's food on the table. Like,
yeah, that could make for one of the best Royal Rumbles you could ever see, to be honest with you, because anything Roman is involved in is gold at this point. And with the bloodline there helping him out, I mean, it could be one hell of a Rumble. And he gets another one under his belt. Everybody will cheer, obviously. They won't boo him out of the building. And then you get Roman defeating McIntyre at WrestleMania again. So I think it might work, to be honest with you. West Coast Podcast goes saying, take the lighting away too. We saw a Fiend match at a live event with that red lighting. Thought I might pass out. It's rough. I mean, it's rough. It's just like it's not pleasant on the eyes. So it doesn't make a ton of sense why they would do that. Hopefully, when he comes back, they don't ever go back to it. But I know they've kind of kept away from it for a while. But yeah, those are predictions for Hell in the Cell. We went off on a few tangents here about other things, but it's wrestling, right? That's what we do. Yeah, you gotta talk about as much things as you can at one time. But it should be interesting to see how this whole pay-per-view plays out. And off air, we're going to figure out how we did for NXT TakeOver, and then we'll figure out for this one, and we'll try to keep track of everything because these are going to be my main predictors for these predictions, and we're going to try to keep score of how many times we're right and how many times we're wrong, and hopefully at some point or another crown a champion or somebody who's like at least a winner in all this. But we'll see how that ends up going down. But again, I want to thank Dan from DWE. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. And I want to thank Max from WrestleMania UK. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. As always, it's always great to have you guys on here and do these predictions with me. Always a fun time. Always really good discussion. and really good booking, right? I always have to say like that. Like if we're booking the show and everything like that. It's always a ton of fun doing it with you guys. Make sure you subscribe to both their channels. We appreciate everybody for getting involved in the chat. If you haven't dropped a like, please do drop a like on this video. Sub to all 3 of our channels, please. We really do appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.